And then he wasn't stopping around second. He blew through second, went to third with the triple. Brantley took care of business, and the Indians luckily put on the insurance run because Kansas City chipped one more away in the bottom. But the Indians took that one 3-2 in 11, guaranteed themselves the series win, and then put themselves in position for what happened on Sunday. But I don't know if you watched the game Saturday there. I got home in time to watch the end. I was back from the game just in time to watch all the fun, good and bad, for the later innings of that game. Talk to me a bit about that one. Bauer took care of business, man.
He certainly did. I was actually listening to the game, and I was listening at the time when that whole defensive snafu happened, and you had that sticky feeling like, oh no, is this what's going to sink us? But, you know, they were able to hang in there, and I think really the unsung hero of this team, you know, not just that night, but throughout the second half of the season has been the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen has really, you know, done very, very well. You know, not just Allen, but, you know, guys like Shaw and Crockett and Hagedorn. They've been, you know, really been able to keep the opposing team down and to allow for this, you know, late inning heroics where if they do make a mistake, whether it be a defensive mistake or a mental mistake or just a mistake from a lack of experience, which is pretty much what happened there with Ramirez, where he's playing aggressive but just didn't really throw the ball in the right place. You know, the bullpen, I should say, is able to keep the opposing hitters in check long enough so that somebody else on the team can sort of erase the problem and come up with the big hit at the end. So I hope that really continues. But the bullpen doesn't get a whole lot of credit, I think. But guys like all the ones I mentioned and also Scott Atchison, they've really bailed this team out, you know, sometimes in a very quiet way, more than I think they get a lot of credit for.
No, and you know what? Like you said, being able to walk that tightrope for the Indians and hold the lead in those situations and stop those runs, give you enough time, buy you enough time for Ramirez to hit a crazy triple and get you sparked up again, you know, and that's what they've done time and time again. And the reason the Indians have surged now is because they've gotten that all season from they thought the bullpen may be tired and not be able to give you more. The starting rotation picked the perfect time at the end of the season with the beginning of the month of August to kick it into that second gear and really now pick up their half of the load, which is really the big difference. And I gotta say, part of that, before we move on to the other stuff that happened over the weekend, is basically, I think, a lot of, and we've alluded to this a bit, addition by subtraction. Nothing, and this is not a bash. I don't mean, you know, wow, we got rid of this guy. No. But there were spots, just as we talked about, whether it's Nick Swisher offensively being put on the disabled list, taking that out of the lineup, Masterson, and just not giving you consistency as a starting pitcher, taking that out of there, and as Drubal, and a couple of places, I believe that as much as anything else, along with the schedule, is the biggest forces driving this run here. Is you cleared up some of the dead wood, some of the play, and it's addition by subtraction. You didn't need to put supermen in those places as much as just get some adequate production from some places that were really underperforming. I think that's the biggest part of it right there.
I think you're exactly right. I don't think that those guys were sinking the team, you know, into the abyss. But what they were doing was they were keeping them as a 500 team. I mean, you had guys like Kluber and guys like Brantley and Gomes who were really overachieving. Then you get guys like Masterson and Swisher through what they did and through what they didn't do. You know, we're bringing the team kind of back down to earth. And that wasn't going to change. You know, if we kept Swisher out there, you know, just tried to go along with his knees, and, you know, if we didn't trade Masterson, we didn't trade Cabrera, and we said, well, let's just stick with these guys. You know, it worked out last year. It wouldn't have gotten better. We would have been a 500 team all the way through, and we wouldn't be having this surge of excitement that we're having now. So it's kind of tough, especially, you know, when you have a guy who loves his veterans as much as Frank Hona does, you know, to make that move and to put the team in the hands of these younger guys. And I think I said or wrote, you know, when this happened, it's like, if the Indians are going to make this surge, it's going to have to be some of these younger, unknown guys to do it, because the previous guys were not doing it. It was a steady stream of 500 ball that I really don't think would have changed. And, darn it, they sure have done it. You know, even just thinking of that one trade with, you know, Cabrera for Walters. I mean, Walters hasn't hit for a good average, but he's hit 6 home runs all in crunch time, and that's really made a big difference.
And look at the combination. You've got him and Ramirez filling in that spot there, and both of those guys have made contributions in different ways, as you mentioned, And again, same with the pitching, and you can't say enough for the emergence. Nobody could have planned on the re-emergence of Carlos Carrasco, And it's,
oh yeah,
I mentioned it before. For the wintertime, it's such an intriguing conversation to think about. Is this legit? You know what I mean? When does Cinderella when does it turn back into a pumpkin? But I'm digging it for now. And I'll tell you something else that's going to be big for this month of September is Lonnie Chisenhall getting that back going, because he can be crucial for this team, and I think we've seen some flashes of that over the last couple of weeks. Him getting himself going. He came up with the big 2-out double that gave the Indians the lead that right now is on pause in that final game against Kansas City, and that's going to be big. That bat there being added to things too. So, all of that kind of sets the stage for where they are. So for all intents and purposes, they sweep that series with Kansas City. The stage is set. Here we come with Detroit. Indians had all kinds of trouble with the late night getting in. They came in around 4:30 in the morning. That doesn't excuse Corey Kluber, because he got to come out early for the game, though. So he had that one you can't apply to him. And let's start there, because my man has been so good all season long, Corey Kluber, but the last 3 starts, it's definitely been un-Kluber-like, and the first 2, not bad. I mean, really, we're talking about giving up a couple runs and getting no run support. Yesterday, shelled a couple of times out early in the game. You absolutely don't expect that when you got your ace, and that is what Corey Kluber is at this point in time, out there on the mound. Are you worried in any way about Corey Kluber? I'm not. I mean, obviously, everybody's got to go through a stretch like this, but I figured I'd ask you, are you in any way worried about what you've seen from Kluber the last few times out?
No, I'm really not. And in fact, if he would have gotten a little more run support, he would have had a couple of wins and then just this one loss. So unfortunately, he's got 3 straight losses on his ledger. You can kind of tell that he's frustrated just by the way he responded to the media. They were saying, "Is everything okay?" And he's like, I'm fine, everything's fine. And, I'm sure he's probably trying to tell himself that too. But, he's kind of getting into uncharted water here too. He's being asked to lead a team as an ace. He's up about 200 innings, which is also, kind of a high water mark for him. He's just not used to this, being in the catbird seat position, going into a playoff race like this. So I'm thinking the pressure might be getting to him a little bit, but I think he's going to work out fine. I don't think he's saying that physically he's okay. I think that, this is one of those situations where, and he even said, this is a great hitting team. And you can tell the pitch that he threw to Victor Martinez, he got that up there, and that's what Martinez will do. He'll knock it out of the park. So the good news is they were able to get him out of there without throwing too many pitches, so that hopefully when he comes up again, he'll be fine and he'll be able to turn in more of a Kluber-like performance.
And it was the middle of that lineup that got him, whether you're talking about Miggy Cabrera, Victor Martinez, JT Martinez, they all went deep on him there. And Vashon in the chat room had an interesting suggestion, perhaps sooner rather than later, but you skip a start with Kluber, and maybe he's got, just as you said, high water mark on innings. We've talked about that. Perhaps you skip a start and get him the opportunity to get that arm a little bit of a bounce back there and get a little juice and vigor in that thing for the home stretch.
That's actually not a bad idea from Vashon, but one thing they might do is not necessarily skip a whole start, but maybe just bump him back a day and possibly try Zach McAllister. I mean, Francona was saying that they were kind of stretching him out when he was pitching yesterday, so I wouldn't be surprised to see McAllister take a start somewhere, considering they have all these games in a row, and I think he's going to be the, I guess, quote-unquote, number 6 starter if they need one. That might not be a bad idea, even if just to give Kluber an extra day, even just a mental break, because they needed to do that from Michael Brantley, and it's a long season, and it can wear not just on your body but on your mind, and maybe Kluber just needs an extra day off to be back to his former self.
But then again, when you're in the middle of an every game counts stretch, can you afford to take that as well? That's something. But as you said, they have the option there, and perhaps the Indians may be setting themselves for that, because to me, it's a short-term sacrifice that could pay long-term dividends. If you skip, say his next start is scheduled for the White Sox, coming up Saturday, actually, is the next time around in the rotation for him. Perhaps you skip that spot there, and it gives you, a couple of extra juicy starts here coming down the stretch. I don't know. You trade some now for some later. I don't know. Or you just can't afford to do that, and you man up and you push through it. And maybe Kluber doesn't want that. Maybe he just says, hey, I'll take care of it, and next time he goes out there, he does what he does. I don't know. We'll have to see how the Indians proceed with that here. Meanwhile, Tribe's got 3 more smack dab in front of them with Detroit here. All 7:05 first pitches over the next 3 days as they've got this long homestand here with Detroit, Chicago, the Angels, and Minnesota in this. Carrasco, we get a chance to see if he's for real as he goes back, continues to stay for real as he goes back out here, looks to take that month of August that he had and now move it into the month of September.
Well, I think that tonight's game, that if it happens, I'm driving through a huge rainstorm right now, that tonight's game, I think, is really, really important, especially after what happened yesterday. And you've got Verlander and Scherzer both coming up in the next 2 days. Tonight, when they're going to throw out a rookie left-hander named Kyle Lobstein, you've got to jump on this guy. And I know that a lot of times, some unknown rookie lefty will end up totally dominating us and baffling us. And I hope that doesn't happen tonight, but the Indians really need to look at tonight's game as a day they can jump on him, really try to knock the rookie around and give Carrasco a nice lead to work with to even up this series so you're at, so you've erased what happened yesterday when you go Ender and Scherzer, so you're like, now we have a chance to possibly split this series or maybe even win this series. But I think that tonight is their real opportunity, especially on offense, to get something going. This is the biggest game, I think, tonight. You don't want this series to get away from you.
No, absolutely, because you undo all of the Kansas City stuff if you let that happen here. Salazar, Bauer follow you up here with those matchups with Verlander and Scherzer, but I'm with you. Tonight, go out there, it's on Carlos Carrasco. He's got to go out there and take care of business. It starts with him. You've got to shut down these bats. They're feeling good after yesterday. Make them quiet today. And Carrasco, we saw what he did in August. Let's see if the calendar flipped. Let's see if that goes with them. And then Salazar and Bauer and big here. You have got to bounce right back after yesterday. Like you said, when you're staring down the barrel of Verlander. I know he's basically 500 this year, but he's still Verlander, and he's still a pitcher you got to worry about. And then, of course, Max Scherzer is the definition of ace over there for the Detroit Tigers. And, hey, Price, you know what? That was the first time yesterday. And, of course, he picked the game against the Indians. That was the first time since that trade to Detroit that he looked like the guy Detroit thought that they were trading for. The few times that the Indians got him in trouble, they got themselves off the hook very quickly. I can't remember the inning, but the inning where they got 2 on and no outs to start things. And before you know it, within like 3 pitches, they haven't moved, and now there's 2 outs. And boom, he got out of the inning without... The runners didn't even advance past first and second. And I'm like, man, you're not going to... Wow. That was when they were still down 5-1. And I'm like, man, you're not going to come back there. I mean, I thought, okay, you got your opportunity here. I think they had 2, 3, and 4 coming up against Price with first and second, no outs. And boom, boom, boom. Before you knew it, Detroit was back on the bench. And I said, well, it's going to be one of those games. And then Detroit just continued to add to that lead. So you got to wipe that taste out of your mouth. There's another one today, Carrasco against the rookie left-hander Lobstein there. Go get the victory before you face the 2 guns coming up in the final 2 games. Right? Right?
That's right.
That's
right.
And
the best thing about David Price is, we're not going to see him at the end of the season when we face the Rays. So we took our punishment yesterday.
There you go. All right, Jeff Gorman, my man, thank you once again. Team O Destiny rolls on, baby, even with what happened yesterday. They still remain a season-high 5, I'm calling it 6, games over 500 for the first time this season. And let's see if they can add another game to that tonight behind Carlos Carrasco. Jeff, you have a good week. We'll catch back up at the end of the week and preview the first Browns game of the season.
Can't wait. Browns Steelers doesn't get any bigger than that in this town.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The team of destiny going to the World Series. But other than that...
Football-wise.
Other than that, You're right. Brown Steelers. I'm not one of them people that doesn't get into the rivalry. I still dig it, baby. Just wouldn't hurt to win one every once in a while. All right, Jeff.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. But it doesn't matter. It's still Brown Steelers to me, man. But all right, Jeff Gorman, you have a good one, my man. We'll catch you back up at the end of the week.
All right. Thank you very much, Rock. Have a good one.
You too. And, of course, you guys can interact with Jeff on Twitter at Indians_10.